Hey there Scouts, it's me once again, Brian the Chinchilla. I'm here with a new video for you guys. Something that's going to be a little bit more different than my normal videos, but still kind of in line with what I produce on this channel. A few months ago, I bought Project Cars 2, and have since enjoyed racing on there every so often, but maybe not as often as I want to. Today though, I have a great race for you guys to enjoy, and even if you don't enjoy racing, stick by and I'll go ahead and explain some things to you. So today we're going to be looking at a GT race that I had over at Imola. It's an hour long, but these are the highlights of my race, so not quite as long. The style of racing we'll be watching today is GT racing, which in this case is different classes racing together in one big race. Essentially what this means is that there are multiple races going on in this one race. So for example, I'm driving the BMW Z4 in this race, which is a GT3 class car. All in all, there will be 4 different classes in this race. The first class I'll be going over is the GTE class, or the GT Endurance class. This class is specifically made for endurance racing. This category is the fastest out of all the 4 that we are going to be looking at today, but following pretty closely behind is the GT3 class, which I'm a part of. Now, the difference between a GTE and a GT3 car is mainly that a GTE car has been made for longer endurance periods, so while a GT3 car might be better in a race like the one that I'm racing in today, which is about an hour long, the GTE class will definitely be better for races that are 4, 5, 8, 12, 24-hour long races. So you can see here the difference between the Aston Martin Vantage GTE and the Aston Martin Vantage GT3. And you can see that there is a difference in the acceleration with the GTE class being faster, although the GT3 class does have a little bit more horsepower, only 5 more. It doesn't make much of a difference, but between the two of them, they are pretty similar on pace. So now I'll be looking at the GT3, 4, and 5 classes together with the Ginetta. So while the Ginetta GT3 has a top speed of 184 and an acceleration of 3.4 seconds to go from 0 to 100, but you see that the GT4 class has a top speed of 166 miles an hour and takes 4.3 seconds to accelerate from 0 to 100. Once again, bigger difference going back down to the GT5 class, you will see that their top speed is 146 miles an hour with an acceleration of 5.09 seconds to get up to 100 miles an hour from a dead stop. So between these classes, you will have a different race. You will have a race for who wins in the GTE category. You'll have a race for who wins in the GT3 category, the GT4 category, and the GT5 category. But then combine all those 4 together into this one race, and you get the overall winner and the overall positioning. So typically in this type of racing, you'll see things like overall position versus position in class, or position in division. And division is something completely different that we won't focus on in here. But the whole point that you have to understand is that there are 2 races in one for me in this race, if that makes any sense. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at this race. So you can see here the race starts up. I'm dead last in my class, which leaves me at around 14th, and you can see me there in the white BMW just in the middle of your screen there coming across. I didn't get a good start, but that was fine by me because I didn't have any positions to lose, besides the people who were behind me in the GT4 class. And you can see here, first lap, just trying to get a feel for the car, trying to get a feel for the track. It is a rainy, wet track, which means that traction is iffy to say the least. And you'll see that this corner here catches me out. I go way too wide and lose quite a bit of time. Luckily, though, I managed to stay ahead of the GT4 drivers and not lose as much time as I might have. So that corner definitely caught me out. A couple laps later, I get on the back end of the BMW in front of me, who is in my class. So I'm trying to pass him for 6th, if I remember right. And you can see here, I go to the outside and then go to the inside. We get really close there, but I managed to get past him. You can see him in the rearview mirror there. And taking a look from the outside, you can see that I go along the outside. He covers me, but then I go along to his right side, and he can't block me there. We do get really close there. Surprisingly, we didn't make any contact, which was surprising to say the least. And now I have my eyes set on the Porsche in front of me. And once again, this corner catches me out a couple laps later. And I don't go as wide there, but it's still enough to make me lose quite a bit of time. So now I have to put my head down and gain all that track position and all that time back. So now I'm on the back of this Porsche here. You can see that the two drivers in front of us are going side by side, which means that now neither of us really have anywhere to go. We get really close here, and you can hear that there was a bit of contact there. And we'll go ahead and look at the outside view just that way you can see this a little bit better. I don't know whose fault this was. From that angle, it looks like I drive through him, and I did take a bit of a wider angle into that corner, but you can see there, that's the little contact that we made. Slowed it down. You can see that the Acura in front of me moves a lot sooner than I do to take that line. I don't know who's at fault. If you want to go ahead and, point the blame at me, I'm perfectly fine with that, but once again, I'm still learning this. I'm still trying to figure this out. I hadn't raced in 2 months at this point. So now I'm on the back of the Mercedes in front of me, trying to get 5th position. So I go ahead and try to do the same thing that I did with the BMW, but for the Mercedes, he ends up covering that line a lot better than the BMW did. And then suddenly the Acura in front of the Mercedes just brakes for no reason, which means that now I moved up to 4th position, which I wasn't going to complain about. You can see that there I go, right back through there. And so I don't think that I would have been able to make this position on the Mercedes had the Acura in front of him not slowed down there. You can see how much that speed difference is there. I don't know why he slowed down, but it still kind of scared me because he was on the outside of me when I was going into this corner. I didn't want to have a run-in with him and spin out or anything like that. Luckily, we managed to get by him without any contact. So we come out of Tosa. I'm right behind the Renault in front of me, and this is for 3rd position in class. And we're coming to Piratella, and I managed to get along inside of him and make a pretty smooth pass on him, just outbraking him. You can see here on board, just make that pass work, and everything seems to go smoothly from there on out. And now I have to catch up to the front 2 runners, who are in the Cadillac and the McLaren. Now, unfortunately for me, this next lap does not do me any sort of favors, and in fact it really hurts me a lot. And you can see here I go way wide into this corner and basically spin out. I don't rejoin very well, which completely on me, complete driver error. The 2 cars in front of me braked and I was not ready. I pretty much missed my braking point at that point. And you can see there I rejoin in a pretty terrible way. You can see here from the front bumper that 2 cars in front of me brake, and I don't really want to run into anybody, so I go wide and into the gravel. Luckily, I managed to get out without any sort of issue. And a couple corners later into Villeneuve, I end up going a bit too wide and onto the gravel. Rejoin a bit better this time. Don't hold up anybody behind me. We're coming down over here into Rivazza and coming up on some lapped cars in the GT5 category. You can see there in the silver and blue car, and I completely miss my braking point and go way off on track. And it loses me position on the Renault, so I go back into 4th in class, and I was about to lose a position on the Acura here, and I really should have, because I went way wide. I did a much better job rejoining the track this time, as you'll see here, just way wide, complete driver error on my part. But you can see here I don't just dart back out onto the track, and I make sure to give the Acura the room that he needs, so that way he can get past me, because I was going much slower than he was. You can see there he's alongside me, but I ended up keeping that position, and I ended up making this amazing pass about a lap later on the Renault to get back up into 3rd in class. You can see here 3 wide through the lapped traffic of the green and red Ginettas there. Now that was quite a scary moment for me, because I had the Renault on the right side of me and I had to pass the Ginetta because I didn't want to get stuck behind him. You can see there with 3 wide, and I dart through the lap traffic to get by not only the Renault but the other lap traffic. We're on board with the Renault here, and you'll see that I kind of do shove him a bit wide, but from the outside view you can also see that the Ginetta, the green Ginetta that I was trying to lap, also did put a bit of a push on me. So here on the front stretch, I try to get by the Cadillac going around the outside, realize it's not going to work. You can see here, heading into Tamburello, I go wide and realize I'm not going to make that corner. Try to outbrake him in Tamburello and realize, yeah, that's not going to work either, and he gets by me and keeps the position. But I, once again, have to put my head down, realize that there's going to be more opportunities to pass, and just stay in his tracks. And a couple corners later, I end up getting that opportunity right here. So into Tosa, I'm going to go ahead, dive in along the inside, and outbrake him. And there's a little bit of contact there, which was a bit weird to me because I kept the inside line. You can see here on the outside view that just the slightest bit of contact, and he goes wide. On the outside view on the chase camera, you can see here what happens. I'm alongside, and I don't know. I mean, I think that might have been a racing incident, but if you think otherwise, let me know. And here, I pass the McLaren for first in class on the straightaway, and he ends up trying to go along the inside of me, and I completely left the room for him, but he ended up backing out before he could make the position count. So I don't know why the AI did that, but that ended up leaving me with a first in class. So I was leading the GT3 class, and now I was on the back bumper of this yellow BMW in front of me, who was dead last for the GTE class. And here I make an absolutely shameful pass on him, and oh, just completely my mistake. Right there, he runs into me for it, which I can't blame him. He comes up in front of me, hits his braking point, and my braking point's a little bit later than his, so I end up running into the back of him, running wide into the corner, and then he hits me right there in the door. And here on his view, you can see I pretty much just run right into him, and I did not mean for that at all. He came up in front of me, and I didn't have much room there, but completely my fault, and I take full responsibility for that. So here I'm on the back bumper of the black Corvette in front of me, and you can see that the rain has stopped, and now it looks like there's a dry line forming. So with pit stops looming in the background, you have to ask yourself, do you stay with wet tires, or do you put on dry tires in hopes that the track is dry enough? And as you'll see around some parts of this course, there are still some pretty wet spots right here. If you were on slicks, you definitely would not want to be on there. So the question now is, what tires do you put on with this kind of variable track? And on this lap, the 4 GTE runners right here, in fact all the GTE class comes into pit, but these are the 4 runners up here. You have the Corvette, Aston Martin, quad there. They come into pit, and they actually put on wet weather tires, which is huge because you can see me, I'm coming through the background there, and I stay out for another lap. I stay out on those wet tires, and I'm like, I'm going to come in next lap. So everybody else goes into pit. That leaves me with the lead of the overall race. And these guys put on their wet tires, but I stay out another lap and push really hard. And you can see me there. I slide through that corner a bit loose. And I'm trying to put as much distance as I can between me and anybody else. I know that because I'm staying out another lap that I really push hard there. I go a bit too wide. But I try to push hard, and I try to gain as much time as I can on these tires. Try to use up the tires as much as I can, because after all, I'm changing them off the next lap. And you can see me coming in here with the yellow McLaren behind me, who's second in class. He's going to change onto slicks. We're going to change onto slicks. So now we have a bit of a differing tire compound between all the drivers. So now, the GTE drivers, you can see here, this is Espen Gundersen in the number 99 Aston Martin. He inherits the lead, but they're all on wet weather tires, which means that they're going to be losing time to us, because now that we are on slicks, we have much more traction through the corners, and our tires are not going to wear out nearly as fast. Now in the background is Nick Thornhill. Now, Thornhill decides to come into pit just a lap after he puts on the wet weather tires because he figures it's not wet enough to keep those on. So he comes into pit shortly after to change onto slick tires. And the reason I'm showing you this is because he comes into play later on in the race. He becomes a major part. And as the first of the GTE drivers to come into pit for those slick tires, he ends up getting a major advantage over the other 4 that he was racing with. And you can see there, I come out of the pits, the McLaren comes out of the pits, we're on our slick tires, and we make up plenty of time. You can see there that there's a GT4 car in front of me who I was lapping. But now I'm in about 4th or 5th overall, first in class still. You can see that the McLaren is behind me, and I never was really able to shake him during these next few laps. I tried my hardest, but he was staying within a few seconds of me, and that was really concerning to me because I didn't want to lose the lead of that class. This was going to be a big win for me if I was able to keep it in there, especially since I'd had a very disappointing last few races. During this time, though, all of the other GTE drivers who were ahead of me were pitting, and then the leader, Espen Gundersen, in that Gulf Racing Aston Martin, comes into pit. And I'm well in the background there. I'm about 15 seconds behind, but I end up inheriting the lead, which means that I'm the overall leader now. First in class, first in overall, and I get a little bit too excited in that corner. That corner's still the one that's the most damp out of all of them. It's still got some running water down there, which means that it's very, very slick if you drive over it a bit too quick. And luckily I managed to keep it in check and I don't spin out completely, but a bit of a scary moment there. You can see Thornhill here. He ends up passing that Cadillac, which was third overall. And this is the point where I started to realize that he was catching up quick to me. And considering I only had about 10 minutes left of this race, I did not want to let go of this lead that soon. You can see that the McLaren is in front of him. There I go in the foreground. And then the McLaren comes over. So Thornhill is about 8 or 9 seconds behind me. But that's plenty of time. He can make that up. The next lap, in fact, he actually passes the McLaren here for second overall, which scared me because now there was nobody in between me and the fastest car out on track. So now I really had to pick up the pace. He had gained several seconds on me per lap. And you'll see here, I come into the foreground there, and Thornhill isn't too far behind. So now I'm pushing hard, and sometimes a bit too hard. You can see that same corner catches me out, and that's not going to be the first or the last time. So now we're on the last lap. Thornhill is about half a second behind me. I'm heading into the first few turns into Tamburello, and you can see he's just about there. He's not quite close enough to make a move on me yet, but he's close enough to put a lot of pressure on me, and oh boy am I feeling the pressure at this point. So heading around these few turns, just trying to keep him behind me as long as I can, trying to defend, and it doesn't help when I catch a lapped car right at one of the worst times trying to pass him. I have quite a bit of difficulty, and you can see in the background there Thornhill has virtually no difficulty at all getting past him, which means that now he's just a little bit closer, and this scares me to no end now. So coming into Piratella here, we're going to be heading down into Acqua Minerale, and these are the corners that have been messing me up the entire race, and especially this second corner here. And you'll see that it's no different this time. Not even on the last lap am I safe, and that makes Thornhill get even closer to me. So you can see here, I just get on the curb there, gas it up a little bit too quickly, and mess up, and he's right behind me. Luckily, I managed to keep him behind me, but now he is within striking distance, and that pressure just keeps on building. Right now we're heading into Rivazza for the final time, the final two corners until we get to the front stretch. He comes over to the left side of me, and I do not have time to block him off. He goes along the inside and gets past me, and that's pretty much it from that point on. You can see that he goes off and just blasts off, and I was hoping to get a better exit on that final corner, but I wasn't able to, and so Thornhill ends up getting first. I end up getting second, but I do end up getting first in the GT3 class. But still, a little bit bittersweet. So you can see here just how beautiful of a pass it was. Thornhill gets alongside, and just enough room there that that he's able to get past me. I tried my best to squeeze him off and to block him off, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. And you can see here on board with him just how it was. You can see here he wasn't quite alongside me until we got into the braking zone, and you can see here just cutting that corner a little bit. Not enough to actually get any penalty, I don't think, but overall a very, very beautiful pass on me, and I'm not even mad. I've had a bad race the past few races, but anyways, that's it for my race. You can see that I ended up getting second overall, first in class. Still happy about that. But I am going to be putting out another video related to this race just to get a feel for what you guys want. It's going to be a full race highlight, and what I mean by this is it's going to be shorter than this, because in this one I had to explain quite a bit, but it's going to be the overall race. So not just from my point of view, but from the other drivers and the other races that are going on. It focuses more on the race as a whole versus my race specifically. So if you want to see that, be sure to vote on the next video that's going to be coming up, which is going to be the race highlights video, to tell me which one you prefer, this one or the full race highlight. So I'll see you then.